for now, let's just say you need to capture their attention with something you've found in your prep before you called to gain their interest. Now, dealing with the main objections like price, for example, too expensive, I can get cheaper, that's a little bit more than we wanted to pay, anything along those lines of price has a very high rate of coming up in the conversation. In fact, I read somewhere that recent studies showed as high as 95% of today's buyers would object to price in some way. Reasons for this included that they have access to so much detail online for them to do their own research, and there's so many options nowadays too, so the buyers are far more savvy when it comes to purchasing. So if price is a very high rate of coming up, you should be prepared for it. But most sales trainers try and give you a rebuttal to try and overcome it. However, most of the hard work should have been done throughout the whole process, so that the deal has so much value stacked to it that it becomes a no-brainer. And when they do object to the price, you simply justify it by stacking the value once again and asking for the business. Here's an example. Let's take sales training services as an example. We've gained the challenges they're having, we've gained the percentage increase they're looking for, we've got them to confirm why it's important to them and how much in numbers what that extra revenue would be. When they feel my fee is too expensive, I like to ask the following. Christina, when you say it's too expensive, do you mean too expensive for my services or too expensive for your budget? If they say my services, I firstly justify the numbers and the increase of revenue they will obtain, then prove that they can trust me to get them there by telling a story of a similar client I've worked with and the results they got. Then I like to mention I charge a very low rate compared to the results that I get. At this point, I remind them that they're not investing in sales training, they're investing in a result. True? I then describe another story of one of my clients who stated I was a little bit expensive. I agreed to deliver the training for free and take a 2% cut of all sales the new start sells in the first 3 months. He decided against it and said he'd pay the fee. Wise decision, as he would have owed me 5 times my fee. If they say too expensive for their budget, you can do the same approach, but perhaps look at removing some things from your offer, if it's possible for you. One of my clients in truck sales started to go over all the things the chap said he required added to the truck to see if he really needed them all. They could potentially lower the price by removing some of the additional spec. You can also look at the levers technique, which is described brilliantly in Todd Capone's book, The Transparency Sale. So if a customer is looking for a discount, here's how you use the levers technique. You start by looking at certain levers that you can possibly give them as a small discount, but you also gain something too, a win-win. Let's look at 4 shown in Todd Capone's book. They are volume, the timing of the payment, the length of the commitment, and the timing of the deal. So in the meeting, he presents to the buyers that he would like to go through these elements one by one, as because they represent not only how our pricing is configured, but also the levers that drive their business. So first is volume. If you're willing to commit to taking more, then as you can imagine, it's better for our business, and we're willing to pay for that in the form of a discount. Now, that last sentence is psychologically very clever. It states that we are paying them. It legitimizes your original pricing and reminds the client that you're not there to provide charity, but to structure a mutually beneficial agreement. We can now offer, let's say, a 5% discount if they buy a higher volume of what you're offering, if this is a possibility. Next would be the timing of the payment. If they're willing to pay for the year up front, then we are willing to pay you for that in the form of a 5% discount. Next, we have the length of commitment. Our current agreement is for 1 year. For each additional year you are able to commit to, we can pay you in the form of a 5% discount for each additional one. Lastly, we have the timing of the deal. Our ability to forecast our business is incredibly valuable. So if we can finalise an agreement before the end of September, we're willing to pay you for that alignment with an additional 5%. More than likely, they won't be able to say yes to all 4 in this example, but I'm sure you can understand how it works, and more importantly, how you can put it to work to overcome a price objection. So what are the other 4 main ones my clients come up against? They are length of contract, we already work with and say it's a competitor, not interested, not going to work for us, I need to think about it or send me some details. So let's take a look at each one. Length of contract. Now, depending on what your company's options are, let me give you some tactics that you may be able to apply. The first tactic is to contrast it against other options. For example, if you want them to sign up for a 24-month contract, instead of a 12-month contract, then present 3 options to them: a 12, a 24, and a 36. Then value stack the 24-month option as the best value and the best no-brainer choice. I remember working with one of my clients who was selling contracts to join a boat club. Now, he said to me, "Steve, I'm struggling with the 12-month contract because most people want it just for the summer, as they don't want to go out in the boats over the winter period. So this is when I suggested we offer new prospects a 12 or a 24-month option and stack the value during the winter months with members' outings, gatherings, get-togethers, parties, etc. Now, I hear some of you say, "But Stephen, we only have one length of contract term." Well, firstly, I would say, why? But secondly, if that's the case, then what you have to do is use contrast. So one example was a telecoms company who wanted to sign businesses up for a 7-year contract, where the standard was, say, 3 to 5 years. At the beginning of the conversations, they would start using contrast in the mind of the buyer by stating the following: "I've done my research on your company, but would really love to know where you want to be in 5 to 10 years from now." Now, this may seem subtle to you, but in their subconscious mind, we've now dropped contrast of 5 to 10 years. When it comes to a 7-year contract, they have already spoke about their long-term plan. Never underestimate the power of influencing at a subconscious level.